In 1980, 81, thereabouts 81, I asked 12 to 1,500 people come together in Southern California and let's talk about something new and different in the prophecies opening the book of Daniel. 80, 81, might have been early 82. By 83, the word was getting around across oceans and onto other continents, and I was invited to come to Australia. Then you come to Australia, you land in Sydney. Sydney is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And friends who invited me to come over said, there's going to be a crowd. Matter of fact, probably be the largest crowd we've ever had at the auditorium, the hall where we're going to meet. And so Sabbath morning came. And I'm a foreigner, I'm a whatever, and I announced to these people that the book of Daniel is really for our day, and forget about the past. That's not prophecy, that's history. Well, that didn't excite it, incited some Adventist folk. And I, in the presentation that morning in Sydney, and there was standing room only. They were even outside standing. I said, mark this down because I believe it's in the book. The day is coming, the United States and Great Britain are going to go to war with Iraq and Iran. And this is going to mark the beginning of the time of the end. That's where the brother who was extremely well known in the church in Australia, high up official, he shouted out loud for the whole crowd to hear, this man has lost his mind. Okay? Now, I have not stopped in the 20, 30 plus years since that time saying, the key to this is a war that is going to come between the United States and Great Britain and Iraq and Iran. Iran is going to be the provoker. Something Iran is going to do is going to bring the West in with all guns loaded and firing. You listening? The date of this is June 15, 2017. What is the date today? 17. Oh, this is old news. I shouldn't even share it with you. Here's the headline. With the U.S. dollar rallying and gold hovering near $1,250, top trends forecaster Gerald Celente, maybe some of you know who Gerald Celente is, just warned that this trigger for a global stock market crash will devastate the world. Headline, Iran war coming, World War III market crash.
You call it the trigger event.
Yeah. June 15, King World News, Gerald Celente, get ready for the next war. It may be the war to end all wars and much of civilization. This is 2 days ago. Here's a trigger event. He's not talking Bible prophecy. He's talking Bible prophecy. He's looking at what's going on in the world. I'm looking, and I pray you're looking at what's going on in the book. For 30 plus years I've said, when this happens, here it is in the book. Here it is in the press. 2 days ago. Thank you for bringing this along. Gerald Celente just warned this trigger for a global stock market crash will devastate the world. Iran war coming, World War III market crash. Okay? Now my position was that this is not going to, the powder keg is not going to, until January 2018, it should say January the 20th, because that was inauguration, and it says 12 months. It's very precise. It's very exact. And after 12 months, he was walking in the palace and sat in the people's house and said, this is my great doing. And the watcher and the Holy One in heaven says, that's it. Bring it down. Cut the tree down. Strip it of its leaves, branches, fruit. Let the beasts get away. Let the birds flee. Let the other nations get away, and they will. They want nothing to do with us when we don't have money, when we can't buy their stuff. Now, you and I are about to inherit and pay the price for the sins of our fathers. And I include politicians. I include people who go and buy Halloween suits. You understand? I include Adventists. We have gone too far, too long since 1844 to get excited. We don't want to get excited again because it didn't pay, it doesn't pay, it won't pay. That's when stuff happens. Okay? When everybody says it can't happen, it won't happen, Now that's of concern to me because I have been praying. I have been praying for 5 going on 6 years, Lord. I have the marching orders that you gave to me in person in 1978 in Gentry, Arkansas. This is what you said you wanted done. I said, if you will pay the bills, I'll go help get it done. He has paid the bills. But this time, we're to scatter to every kindred, tongue, nation, and people. How are we going to do it? Lord, I need $350 million. Have you ever prayed for $350 million? Well, I decided I need more than that. If the money comes, I shouldn't say if, when the money comes, and it will, it's on the way. And it's all part of this global currency reset. So you need to understand this. I'm not going to burden you too long. A lot of Adventists don't even know this. It's clear in the book of Revelation that there's beast number 1. You'll find beast number 1 in Daniel chapter 7. You'll find beast number 2 in Revelation chapter 13. This first one appears, I'm quoting scripture, appears to be slain unto death. I saw this beast, and one of his heads was slain unto death. He's gone. This is the new world order. This is the one that is maybe days from being introduced to the world. Not as an ugly beast, as the thing we've all been waiting for and looking for. And the markets are going to soar, and money is going to flow, and happy days are here again. That's the new world order. This one is the one world order. This beast is going to be not resurrected, but is going to be copied. We're going to make an image to the first beast whose deadly wound is. We're going to make an image to the first beast. Well, what's the difference between the two? The New World Order is predicated on the nations coming together and working out a plan. Okay? This plan is going to appear to work. It has to be backed. It has to be asset backed. It has to have real something behind it. I could go into 5 hours now with what they're putting behind this from every corner of the planet. Don't need to go into all of that. But they're trying to use real gold, real oil, real assets to back this. The problem is, how many countries on the planet have billions of dollars worth of gold in the ground or in the bank? There's very few. We're talking about 200 plus nations. Where are they going to get asset-backed currency? So you have to invent a scheme, a shell game. You're going to pull oil out of the ground. You're going to print currency. We're going to take your currency, which is good because you've got assets to back it up, and we're going to put your money in our bank, and we're going to say we're asset-backed because we got your currency. It's a scheme. I'm not rich. You got the money, but I got your money in my bank. That makes me rich. Okay? Now, what's going to happen here is that this first king is going down. It's going to collapse. The New Testament talks about it. Ellen White talks about it. Prophetic writings talk about it. This is going down. A surprise. How does Ellen White? The overwhelming surprise, the sudden and unlooked for calamity. This is going to be sudden, almost instantaneous, and it's going down. Then there will be I'm just telling you what my assessment is. I have the right to be wrong. There's going to be 2 to 3 years in which things are trying to heal. Trying to heal. And here comes disaster. I mean, the calamity of all. This is provoked by a flyby in the heavens. This is the one that is going to shake the timbers worldwide. My only question is this the one that takes California and the West Coast down? Or is this the one? It doesn't matter. Both are coming down. Now, right here, you have the answers to the greatest puzzles of the Sabbath in the Bible. Are you listening? The 3 angels' messages in Revelation 14 are introduced with, fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His what is come. Yes, it actually says crisis. It's a crisis. It's a crisis for who? For God. This is His crisis. Well, what is His? How can God have a crisis? Well, the crisis is He's about to shut down business in the sanctuary. And the children that don't make it through the door before it is shut are gone how long? Forever. And not only are they gone, before this whole thing is cleaned up, they're going to have to burn. I would use unkindly words like sizzle and fry, but I wouldn't do that. And God, who loves all His children equally, is going to have the pain and the anguish of not only watching His children burn, but He is going to hear every lament and cry, oh, I'm sorry, take me back. It is no accident that the 3 angels' messages in Revelation are introduced with the Sabbath issue. The first angel's message is the portion of the 4th commandment that says, fear God, give glory to Him, and worship Him that made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is. Come on, this is the 4th commandment. It's word for word out of the 4th commandment. Now, why is this necessary? You have to go back to Old Testament Scripture to understand what's going on. And those of you who are moved messianically, you forgive me. But the Sabbath issue has never made sense. Never. Not when you back away and see that when God was bringing His own people out of Egypt, they had been 400 to 500 years in darkness and ignorance. They didn't even know who Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were, much less the Sabbath. They had not kept the Sabbath for hundreds of years. We have no record that Abraham kept the Sabbath. Are you listening? Oh, well, you don't believe in the Sabbath. Come on, get off of it. We are in ignorance down here on this rock. What is about to happen according to this book is that business is going to be shut down for how many people? Everybody on the rock. And Jesus said it cannot happen. Heaven will not allow the door to close until every kindred, tongue, nation, and people hears the call, the appeal, the last warning, come out. The Sabbath is suddenly going to become a key issue at the end. Ellen White calls it a testing truth for the last days. How does it become an issue? Because the world is going to set up a centralized government. The papacy is at the head of the one world, new world, old world order. And the papacy says, we have decided which day will be the Sabbath. And all of that is going to change with this flyby. We're going to move from 365 and a quarter days back to a calendar of 360 days per year. How do I know it? Because in the Exodus, it was 360 days. In the days of Daniel, it was 365. But he was shown the time of the end, and it will be 360. And God said through Daniel to Nebuchadnezzar, God has shown the king that he is going to change the moed, the times and the seasons in the latter days. God is going to reset the clock. Why? So prophecy can be filled full to the T. And when the calendar is changed overhead, the world governments and the world religions are going to have to come to grips with this. Who has the right to change the calendar? Oh, I don't know who has the right to change the calendar. The same people that give us the calendar we all observe today. The Sabbath is going to become a universal issue. And it's hard-headed, stiff-necked people like Adventists who are going to make it an issue. You have to understand, we are going to become the offscouring of the earth. Those are not my words. We are going to become dirt on the soles of their feet. You sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? You've still got time to join another one. There's going to be 2 to 3 years in here when this flyby occurs and the earth is shaken, they have to come up with a new calendar. They have to. And who has the lawful and historic right to change the calendar and set the times? The papacy. And they're going to say, and everyone is going to say with them, let's have universal agreement so we can have universal peace. And you and I are going to stand up and say, we have made a decision. No. You sure you want to do this? You know what I told the Lord in 1987 when he told me this? I said, I don't want to do it. As a matter of fact, no. I don't want to do this. The church will be mad. The world will be mad. And they got my address. You sure you want to do this? See, 1983, listen, folk, according to Daniel, the time is coming when the United States and Great Britain are going to go to war with Iraq and Iran. Jesus said, I want to tell you something. The scripture cannot be what? Cannot be broken. Scripture cannot be broken. We're down to 6 months. That's basically where we are when we get September, October. Possible war at this time with Iran and Iraq. Possible. Sometime in December. Global financial crisis as the U.S. dollar is broken. Ellen White says money will soon depreciate in value very suddenly when the reality of eternal things opens to the senses of man. Here's a woman with 3 grades of education. No. No. She didn't write it. Somebody who had a larger vocabulary. So here we are, that should say January 20, 2018. That's 12 months from the day. 12 months from the day. If we have a war and a financial collapse, is it possible the president would lose his mind and his billions?
So everybody else.
I'm just guessing. I'm guessing. Is it possible that there are going to be natural disasters in the land, and those, along with all the other pressures, financial and otherwise, are what will humble this nation? If you read Daniel chapter 4 and read it to the end, the king says he came to his senses at the end of 7 years. Now, according to Daniel 8, that's 2,300 days. That's 6 1/3 years. You listening? You thinking? Is it possible this red line right here is your worst nightmare and my worst nightmare? So let's look at it. Look, I just added this to the heading. No heading, red line, January 20, 2018, the beginning of sorrows. I stand by it until proven otherwise. I stand by any of this and all of this until proven otherwise. Daniel chapter 2, Daniel said to King Nebuchadnezzar, you're this head of gold, but you're going to turn silver. Which would you rather have, gold or silver? Daniel chapter 4, you're this great tree, but you're going to be cut down. Daniel chapter 7, there's a lion with eagle's wings and a lion's heart, but you're going to be humbled. Your eagle wings and lion heart are going to be plucked. Daniel chapter 8, you will come from the west with a notable horn. It actually says a horn between his eyes, a horn of sight. That's what it says. Notable horn. You are the number one king. It's what it says. And you're going to come. And when he was strong, the great horn is broken. So I want to say this again. If a thing is doubled, this is what you should know, O king. If a thing is doubled from heaven, it's certain. Now, if it's doubled, O king, it's certain. What if it's double? This is what I had not seen for 40 plus years in the book of Daniel. I treated each of these incidents as though it was separate and distinct and virtually unrelated. They are all about exactly the same series of events. Amen. They are all about the humbling of the great power, the number one king. Now, I think this is a big deal. I think it's a big deal because I've never been hungry in my life. I will not give you a map to my garden. My concern at this point is because I have prayed for 5 or 6 years specifically for a lot of money. Whose responsibility is it to supply the lot of money? So I remind him quite often, if you want this done, you got to take care of business. I think business is being taken care of. This is what I think you need to know. That gold and silver are going to be rather static in here until things begin to look dour, sour. And then gold and silver are going to go for the stratosphere. Now, if you talk to the dealers, to the financiers, the big bankers, the saying is that silver is going to go to $200, $250 an ounce. It's $15, $16 an ounce. You do the math. Okay? Gold is going to go 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. It'll be done incrementally. I've had coin dealers that I have never laid eyes on, but I have talked to for several times over the last several years. I have become acquainted with them by name and them by name to me. And they have told me things like, listen, if you know anyone who has silver, tell them not to sell it, not to get rid of it, not to spend it, because things are going to change and it's going for the moon. No, it's going beyond. Gold is going to go up. Now, when gold reaches, this is what they're telling me, when gold reaches $3,000 an ounce, the general public will not be permitted to buy it anymore. That's the big boys, the Wall Street banks and the international banks. They're going to get all of it, and they play the game of running the values up. Are you listening? Why is this of significance to you and me? Because right now, any little bit of money you have or don't have is being threatened. It is possible that within the next 6 months, not only if you have any money, any wealth, and please not cash in the bank. I can take you online and show you hours of, if you have cash in the bank, get it out. Well, what are you going to do with it? Don't put it under the mattress. It just makes a lump. What are you going to do? Buy some gold and silver. Now there you go again, buying gold and silver, and the Bible says don't do it. No, the Bible does not say that. The Bible says up until the day Jesus comes in the clouds of heaven, men will be putting their trust in gold and silver. Listen, the only reason I have any interest, and I have no money yet, I have no money yet. The only reason I have interest is if the dollar does this, the gold and silver do this. Now, we have been counseled in red books outside of Scripture. We have been counseled that if you have and you're holding on till a certain point, it will be wasted. It will lose its value. So if you have gold or silver, you watch until it gets to $2,000, $2,500 an ounce. Don't wait till it gets to $3,000 an ounce. And you cash out. Well, if I cash out, what am I going to do? Well, if you owe any man anything, pay your just debts. If you haven't bought a pup tent to camp in, you better think about it. Hard times are coming. I'm not suggesting, oh, hold on to gold and silver, it'll get you through. No. If you don't have a number when the time comes for you to have a number, all the gold and all the silver in the world will do you no good at all. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a hedge through the hard times that are right before us. That hedge may be 2, 3, 4 years, 2, 3 years. That's where you trust God. That's where you ask God. That's where you seek wisdom from above. Earnestly inquire God for duty, and He will show you. That's the word. That's a direct quote. He will show you. But earnestly inquire God for what? Duty. Who does the gold and silver belong to? Come on. The gold and silver and cattle on 1,000 hills belong to. There's some hard times coming, folks. I had thought, reasoned, and believed it was only going to take 3.5 years to get through this. Things are about to be very, 1 minute and I'll take your hand. Things are about to be very complicated. They're already complicated. They're about to become more complicated by world conditions. They are complicated because most people don't have the desire, don't have the background, don't have the knowledge, are not willing to give the time, energy, effort, and madness, pure madness, to keep up with it all. I don't want to hear it anymore. I have people tell me that all the time. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm tired of the end of the world. It never ends. It's going to end, guys. Write it down. It's going to end. Listen, we have some inspiration. Where did he go? Come up here, young man. We have some inspiration for a few minutes. And then I'm going to put things into your hands that you want. That you want. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to give you some things that cost money, which you paid for.
I like that part about young man.
Yes. Bill Eshe, I don't think he's a stranger to any of you, or...
Good to see everybody again this year.
What are you going to share? What are you going to share with us? What are you going to share?
This is a little song, a new song, but I thought I'd quote a scripture first.
All right, let's quote it right here where it can be heard.
Actually, maybe two.
All right, not three now.
Who knoweth but that thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
Yes.
And John 17:3, and this is life eternal, that they might know thee,
the only
true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the issue of the ages.
Did you put those together in one song?
Basically, worded a little differently, but
all right. All right.
But it's the issue of the ages, right?
Yes.
Worship him, like you were talking a little earlier, that made heaven and earth, the sea, and the fountains of waters. It's been the issue all through scriptures.
Yes. Yes.
This is a little song called I Pledge Allegiance. I think it's coming through the microphone there.
Yes, I got it right here.
I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son. And I pray, dear Father, thy will be done. And I pray, oh Lord, thy kingdom come. And I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son. Father, I'm so thankful for all you provide, for ministering spirits to comfort and to guide. And I see the cloven tongues in Hebrews chapter 1. I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son. I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son. And I pray, dear Father, thy will be done. And I pray, oh Lord, thy kingdom come. And I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son. I plant a crop of rye early in the fall. The early rain comes and my rye springs up small. And springtime comes, the latter rain makes my rye nice and tall. Thank you, Father, for the Holy Spirit and the world's last call. And I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son. And I pray, dear Father, thy will be done. I pray, oh Lord, thy kingdom come. I pledge allegiance to to the Father and the Son. If you picked up on it, would you sing it with me? I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son. I pray, dear Father, thy will be done. I pray, O Lord, thy kingdom come. I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son. Once more, I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son. And I pray, dear Father, thy will be done. And I pray, O Lord, thy kingdom come. And I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son. Yes, I pledge allegiance to the Father and the Son.
Amen. All right, young man, hear this, hear this. Clear your ears. We just got it on tape. We're going to send it all over the world. There you go. Yes, yes, indeed. I want to talk to you about money just a few moments longer, please. Then we'll take your money while it's still worth something. Ellen White has written a very beautiful paragraph. Money has great value, she says. Money has great value so long it is used for righteous purposes, for good purposes. God doesn't need money. God, like you and me, is caught in the middle of a human scenario. You and I are not living at all. We're not living. We're just holding on until Jesus gets here. We are wearing out time until time wears us out. Okay? The evidence that we're trying to convey in this discussion is that we are very, very, very near some precipice, some change, some turning. And once it happens, your ability and mine to make a living the way we do now or whatever, all of that is going to change. When Ellen White from 100 years ago said, soon the passage from place to place will be hedged with difficulties and dangers we do not now perceive. Was she talking about bandits on the highway? Or is she talking about no dough to even get on the highway? And the answer is yes. Yes. If we have major natural disasters in this country and we take a fifth of the population and a fifth of the wealth of this nation and crash it, you and I, there's not a person here who is not going to feel that, experience that in the negative. There is nothing positive about the things that we're being described. Nothing positive about it, except that we are, every day that passes, we are a day nearer the end. Now I want to do this and then we're going to give you something. The book of Revelation opens with Jesus talking to John. You listening? He said, John, Write all of this down. I am. I am. I am. That is a declaration of divinity, period. I am. I am is in the present tense. God exists all the time, anywhere, in the present tense. But when He created, can't get this on good chart. When He created time. There is no time here. There will be time here because God is going to resurrect creation. Creation is not divine. It has a beginning and it can have an end. God has no beginning and no end. I'm the first and I'm the last. Now, anything in creation is dependent upon that realization, the truth of that statement. Anything that is created has a beginning and a possible end. That's not too difficult for us to swallow and comprehend. I'm the first and I'm the last. So here's the question. Let's see what you do with it. Which is most important, the first or the last? It's not a trick question. It's a trick answer, but it's not a trick question. Which is most important, the first or the last? Look. If you have a beginning, some of us were hatched, some of us were born. If you have a beginning, which is more important, the first or the last? The first. And what you hope and pray for is that the day will come when you will not have a what? Last. That's right. The creation in the garden was not supposed to end. God created it to go on. What He is promising all through the Bible from first to last is, you're having to get away from the tree, but I'm going to give it back to you. Well, a tree is a tree. No, a tree is not a tree. This is the tree of what? Life. So everything was beautiful. Everything was wonderful. Everything, God, even God Himself made the pronouncement, it was very good. God never willed for you and me in this creation to have an end. Life was to go on for how long? Forever. What is Jesus promising? If He puts His trust in me, though He were dead, I will raise Him up at the last day. What is God promising us? He's promising us time, never-ending time. That's what God intended, purposed, and willed. Sin got into the middle of all of this wonderful plan. Now, you and I would think that God could just step in and take care of business right now. That was the problem. That was the claim in heaven. God is going to step in. You watch. You just wait. You'll see. God's going to step in, and He's going to force His will on angels and men. He's going to cram it down your throat. This is why this sin business has taken so long. This is why. Because there must come a time when God says, Time's up. It's up. It's going to be up because of natural disasters, because rocks in the heavens are going to come together, and you ain't going to be no more, I ain't going to be no more, and nothing on this rock is going to be any more alive. That's when Jesus comes, just before all life is extinguished on this rock. So, which is best? Which is preferred? The first or the last? The first, the first, the first, first. This is why it is recorded. Blessed is he that hath part in the first resurrection. Over him, the second death has no authority, no power, no claim. You and I are not out from under that dark cloud yet. We have promises. The promises have been going on for thousands of years. What you and I want is for the promises to get out of the way and reality to set in. That's what we want. But it's painful. Just one more. One day his servant said, we thought you planted good seed in your garden. I did. Well, where did all these weeds come from? An enemy has done this. Well, his servant said, we're going and pull all the weeds up. And he said, what? No, you're not. Who do you think? What is he talking about? If I ran my garden the way God runs his, I wouldn't get a thing to eat. Some of you understand what I'm talking about. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about. His servants had good common sense, and they said, we're going to pull the weeds up. Give the good stuff a chance. No, you're not. You're going to let the weeds grow how long? Until the what? Until the what? The harvest. And if you read the next couple of verses, his disciples were talking among themselves, and they said, well, what is he talking about? So Jesus said, I hear you questioning among yourselves, what is the harvest? The harvest is the what? And then there will be a separation between weeds and grain, wheat and tares, goats and sheep. There's going to be a separation. What I've been trying to say here in half the day is that the world with you and me on it and in it are about to enter the last chapter, the last verse, the last act in the sanctuary is the blotting out of your sins and mine. And if they are not blotted out, there's no one in business on the other side to save us. This should be sobering reality. Just this visual alone should set your mind spinning. This is the end of the world. All my plans are not going to work. This is why Ellen White says over and over and over again, when these times come, your only help, your only defense is to inquire of God for duty, and He will show you what to do. But you must be earnest about it. You must be earnest about it. Lord, I'd like to have this and I'd like to do that. But Lord, I just want to say again, you work it out the way you want to work it out. Right? Right. So let's talk to Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he, that's Nebuchadnezzar, walked in the place of the kingdom of Babylon. The palace, not place. The king spake and said, is not this great Babylon that Who built? That I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty. While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven, and this is what the voice said. O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee or to you it is spoken. Does this sound like Belshazzar? The end of Nebuchadnezzar is Belshazzar. I'm trying to show you the story is told and it's told and it's told and it's told. We just never get the pieces together. O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. That's exactly what was said to Belshazzar. Yeah. And they shall drive thee from men. Thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen. 7 times shall, do you know the 7 times is in here 4 times? They shall drive thee from men, thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. You're going to turn to a donkey. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen. 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomsoever he will. Oh, I'd like to pin labels on that one. So many people thought on the night of the election it was going to go their way. But I'm going to give it to someone despised, rejected, someone never expected. That's what I do from my vantage up here. I giveth it to whomsoever I will. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar. He was driven from men. He ate grass like oxen. His body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers. Like what? And his nails like birds' claws. And at the end of the days, that's 12 months, plus 7 times. At the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes to heaven. That's a good thing to do. My understanding returned unto me, and I blessed the Most High. And I praised, listen to this. I praised and honored him that lives forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion. Do you know where that pronouncement is made? Daniel chapter 7, Daniel chapter 12, Revelation chapter 19. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, but it shall come to thee. Hasn't come yet. That's the last decision and choice to be made in the heavenly sanctuary. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, the wicked one, and give it to the people of the saints of the Most High. That's you and me. That's Jubilee. That's getting back what God gave us to begin with. Who bought it back? Who paid the price? Who continues to pay the price? And who has announced that when we get back what the devil stole from us, robbed us from, when we get it back, who's going to come and live with us? How can I get from here to heaven? I don't need to. Heaven's coming my way. You listening? His dominion is everlasting, his kingdom from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing, and he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. And none can stay his hand or say unto him, what are you doing? At the same time my reason returned to me, and for the glory of my kingdom, mine honor and brightness returned to me, and my counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Oh, So Nebuchadnezzar is going to come back and get everything back again. You don't understand. The saints of the Most High come back and get everything back. That's the plan. And now, I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase. There are things that you cannot put to words. You cannot. My life was being affected before I was in the womb of my mother. My life was being impacted by relatives who came before and who were God-fearing people. My mother was a Methodist for years. Then there was a change in location and she joined the Baptist church nearby. Years later, she would join the Adventist church. 1955. I would join in 1956. On my mother's side of the family, there were Methodists and there were Baptists and there were... On my father's side of the family, I come from a long line of Presbyterian preachers and evangelists. My great-grandfather was a Presbyterian evangelist, and he raised up 55 churches in North Alabama and North Georgia, riding horseback. His understanding of God was Presbyterian. When I was born, I had relatives who were putting genetic information into me. Are you listening? I was very fortunate. I was blessed because my forebears, for the most part, were God-fearers. They believed in God. They served God and wanted to serve God as best they understood. Now, I was born in 1942, 1 month after Pearl Harbor was bombed. I was born at one of the most exciting moments in history. And I came into the world kicking. My life was already impacted, even though I had no knowledge, no understanding. My life was already impacted and affected because people passed their genes along to me. So I was 1.5 or 2 years of age, and my grandmother called on a Sunday morning, and she said, Herschel, that was my dad, he evidently didn't have a religious bone in his body at the time. She said, Herschel, this is Sunday morning. Do you know what time it is, Herschel? This is Sunday morning. I know because I've heard this conversation related. Get up and dress that boy and take him to Sunday school. So my first recollection of going to church was when I was about 2 years of age in a Presbyterian Sunday school class. My first recollection. I can remember the lilt of the songs that were sung, and I can remember the story because you have to understand, I am 2 years of age and my eyes are bigger than my head, and I saw a big boat filled with animals. And they said a flood of waters was coming over all the earth. And God told Noah to build a boat and save the animals. 2 years of age, I have that memory. Before the memory, I have the genes of forebearers. When I was 4 years old on a Sunday morning at that big prestigious Presbyterian church in Bessemer, Alabama, Herschel, it's Sunday morning, get up and bring that boy to church. So I went to church that day. My mother reminded me that I have a picture not of the day you went to church with the little suit you had on, short pants, little checkered vest and whatever, little bow tie, 4 years old. And the Presbyterian church is a very well-ordered, well-oiled and well-ordered organization. And folks don't just get up and run out the door and, all that kind of thing. They wait for the choir to sing, and they have to wait for the ushers to come, and one row at a time you go out, and you wait in line until everyone has shaken hands with the pastor, Brother Bryant. You're a 4-year-old. Adults are up to here. Brother Bryant has a robe on. The choir has robes on. It's a very memorable experience. I'm standing in line with my grandmother, and there's a lady behind us with her husband. And she spoke over me. I'm standing there. She spoke over my head, and she says, "Ray, who is this fine young man with you today?" "This is my grandson, Charles." I can remember exactly the look, the words. I can remember precisely what was said. She bent over down to my level and looked me in the eye, eyes to eyes. "I know he's going to be a great man for God." That's what she said. Do you understand how God works in our lives, whether we understand it at the time or not? Do you understand how God sows seed, plants seed, waters seed for a lifetime? Sure you do. Well, we're about to have the watering. A lot of seeds been planted in your life and mine, a lot of seed. Not all of it exactly perfect, but a lot of seed. Good seed has been planted. A few weeds. No, a lot of weeds. For some of you. But God is about to water, and God is about to commission His servants to make a separation. I like the watering. The separation scares me to death. I don't mind telling you. There's an excitement in my Christian experience about what I see coming, and at the same time, it scares the daylights out of me. Not because somebody is going to hate me, but because I am about to meet the King. Face to face. And I'm not prepared for that. All Moses was allowed to see was his back. "I want to see you." "Moses, you don't understand." And what is it in Revelation 6 that the wicked cry?
Face of the Lamb.
"Hide us from the face of him that cometh." For the great day of what has come? His wrath has come. So I'm excited and I'm frightened. Is that a mistake? I think it's reality. And I think any person who is coming to this time with any sense of understanding what we're talking about, the end of the world, it's not simply the end. The world's going to go on. After 1,000 years, it's going to go on. It's not simply that it's the end of the world. It's that all business all accounts must be paid free and clear. I have nothing. And as long as I know that, and you know that, we've got a chance. You understand what I'm saying? You understand that I have nothing and you have nothing, but I have everything because I have Jesus. Amen. If you have friends, if you have family, and they're in Southern California, and any part of what we discussed earlier in the day should take place, if they survive the event, they're going to be in desperation. They're going to be looking for help, place to go. If they have a motorhome or a travel trailer or a tent or nothing, they're going to be looking for a place to go. Shelter overhead, whatever. And many of our friends who have supported us through the years, they're not spring chickens anymore. And they don't just pick up and say, well, I've decided to move to the country. Yeah. We're talking about some difficult things. And the question is, if God gave you an opportunity to meet this larger need, which it looks to me is about to become reality, how would you meet the need? What's the first thing you would do? You would pray. Now tell me what you would pray for. First thing, direction. Direction. I doubt that God's going to direct every person to exactly the same address. I doubt it. But I'm quoting her when she says, I was shown that God has places for his people. If they would only inquire of him, he will show them. Now maybe that's property that you own. Maybe that's property that you don't own. Maybe that's property that someone has prepared ahead of time. Maybe, I don't know. But your part is to earnestly inquire God for duty. Now what about making preparation? I've tried to talk to a lot of people, friends like you, and I've tried to ask without pushing too hard. Do you know how to make a garden? Do you have the tools to make a garden? And by the way, the tools that don't require tractors and diesel. Hey, do you know how to grow something to eat? Most folk either can't, have not, or has been so many years they forgot and don't remember. One of my first lessons was from a grandmother, a fantastic Seventh-day Adventist Christian. And she lived in little rental quarters with my grandfather. And I stayed 1 year with my grandparents. And my grandmother would say, Sonny, come here. And she would give me a little pan with kitchen scraps. And she would give me a tablespoon, and she would say, now go out and dig along the fence. Dig a little trench, put it in, and bury it. I didn't know what that was all about. I had no idea I was a kid. But I did. Now come springtime, guess what she did? She went out and planted beans down that fence row. And boy, did they love all those scraps. You listening? But if she had to survive on that little 20, 30 foot of green beans on the fence, that's not survival. I mean, it might be for a day or two or a week or two, but that's not survival. My same grandmother, when my mother was a child in the Depression, my same grandmother had 7 children. My grandfather was a coal miner, immigrated from England. He came to work in the coal mines of Alabama. He and his brother and his father. And the Depression came and the coal mines shut down. There was no Social Security. My mother was a teenager. She was the eldest of 7 children. So her mother depended on Lily to help take care of the other 6. My mother told me on this one occasion we had no food left in the house. We had 2 slices of bread for a family of 7 and 2, 9 people. 2 slices of bread. And you have children who are always hungry. Always hungry. And my mother said, we were hungry. My mother said, God's going to take care of us. And there were those times when some neighbor down the street would come and put a bag of potatoes and a quart of milk and some bread, a loaf of bread on the front porch. And not even knock on the door, just there. Are you listening? I believe those hard times are coming again. I do. I don't think they're going to come immediately, but I believe they're coming again. I'm going to quote the little lady with the red books. I saw that those who had a place to go and take their families and grow something to eat would live like what? Kings and queens. Just grow a little something to eat. Fresh food is always best.
That's true.
Fresh food is always best.
Something's better than nothing.
So you learn, if you're gardening, you learn that some things really come along in a hurry. So I plant my turnip greens, and in 30 days, I'm ready to harvest turnip greens. Not turnip roots, turnip greens. Good nutrition because they are greens, greens, greens. Good nutrition. And I can plant my collards, and my collards, as far south as we are, will make greens the healthiest greens of all in the garden. Collard greens will make greens all winter long. Now, if it was just me and my wife or me and my family. So this is what I have said to quite a few persons, and most of them I said, for $300 you can buy the implements you need to garden. For $300 you can buy the implements and the seed you need to make a crop. I mean, everything from tomatoes to green beans to you name it. For $300. You think you could scrape $300 together? Well, yeah. Most people, sadly, don't know what to do with the seed and the implements when they get them again. The work, that's W-O-R-K, the work of the people of God is to prepare. Pre means ahead of time. Prepare for the events of the future, which will soon come upon them with blinding force. So all I want to say to you is, I'm watching, I'm listening as people come and say, I know where there are properties. And if God makes the way, we're going to make a way for some people. That's as far as I want to go with that. I need to walk you over a few of these quotations through. Millions where? Come on. Millions where? In the cities must soon decide. Didn't say millions in the country. It says millions in the cities. Men will soon be forced. I don't like that word. Forced to great decisions. They must have opportunity to hear and understand Bible truth in order that they may take their stand intelligently on the right side. That's when the vote is being taken in heaven in the court up there and being taken down here. The court of heaven, the court of men. And how do you vote down here? Tell me how you vote down in heaven. It will be the yeas and the nays. How do you vote down here? Come on. What's Revelation, Daniel and Revelation all about? How will you vote? Just say yes. No, just say no. say no to what? To the mark, the number, or the name. It's going to be simple, but not simple. They have to take an intelligent stand on the right side. God is now calling on his messengers in no uncertain terms to warn the cities while mercy still lingers. So, how would you go about that? Well, I'm going to knock on every door in Chicago. Good luck. Well, at least I can get New York City done. Good luck. How about Pittsburgh? Good luck. What would you do to warn all the people in these cities? What would you do? The perfect storm is coming. So when we prayed, we went to God and said, this is what you're saying. Give us the means to print enough millions of these, so that we can mail one to every home in the United States and Canada first. Don't leave Jerusalem until. So what would you do? That's what we've prayed for. 103 million to do this. United States and Canada. That's what we're asking God to do. We have been challenged. We have been commissioned. We are called and we are chosen. While multitudes are yet susceptible to the converting influences of Bible truth, that sounds as though something is going to happen that folk may want to do, but oh, they are fearful if they do, their families will go what? Come on. If I make the wrong choice here, I know you say it's the right choice. The preachers are telling me the right choice is to do what God says, but I'm afraid if I do what? My family's going to what? Go hungry. Great choices. Crime and iniquity in the large cities of the land is appalling. The wickedness of the wicked is almost beyond comprehension. What God's servants do to warn and prepare men for the day of judgment must be done what? And here we are. We've been talking all morning about, looks like we're down to the last 7 years. Possibly. How are you going to get it done? Let me tell you what we've seen with our own eyes. We have gone into 167 countries of the world. I mean, you're talking about folks from Alabama. 167 countries. We have gone into cities and countries where no one knew us. We've taken boxes of books stacked up, and we have a little sign in whatever language, free book. Publishers give away free book, and then we start handing them out. And the people flock and crowd and start shoving and banging one another because that's mine. We have seen people come out of the crowds. Listen, we have seen people come out of the crowds. We don't know them. We don't know them from, we've never seen them. We don't even speak their language. And they come and they say, even in Washington, D.C., it's an incredible thing to see them get off of the metro in Washington, D.C. and say, looks like you need some help. People just come out of the crowd and say, let me help. If they can't speak your language, they just make the gesture. And suddenly they just fade away. There's no doubt in my mind who they are, where they came from. That's what we're going to see. According to the little lady in the red books, this is what we're going to see all over the world, from the plow and the pen and the desk, and God is going to move upon the hearts of men. But we got to print the books. They got to have something to. I'm bidden to declare the message that cities full of transgression, sinful in the extreme, will be destroyed by earthquakes, fire, flood, calamities are going to come. Most awful, unexpected. These destructions will follow one after another. God allows them to suffer calamity that their senses may be awakened. He will punish cities and places where men have given themselves up to the possession of satanic agencies. I didn't say Hollywood. I didn't say it. I didn't say San Francisco. I didn't say it. Don't put words in my mouth. They're not the only places. Everywhere there are men who should be out in active ministry giving the last message of warning, warning, warning to a fallen world. Now tell me what kind of warning you would give to somebody. So the Lord showed up with a couple of angelic sidekicks and said, that's Abraham's tent, let's go over there. And Abraham bowed himself and finally Abraham recognized that this was not an ordinary person, because he said certain things and Sarah laughed behind the tent. And this visitor said, why did you laugh? Oh, I didn't laugh. Oh, yes, you did. You know, this is a replay of the garden. You know that, don't you? Look, Abraham, I'm not going to keep this from you any longer. We came here on a mission. My two angelic helpers here, I'm sending them on down to Sodom and Gomorrah with a commission. And I'm just telling you because you've got family down there. Oh, Abraham goes into all of this. If you find 50, if you find 40, if you find 30, if you find 20, if you find 10, can't even find 10. Yeah, if we can find 10, we won't destroy the place. Inhabitants of the ungodly city soon to be visited by calamities have been cruelly neglected. Well, there's not much you and I can do about it, but there's one thing that we have prayed for, waited for, that we can do. The perfect storm is what? Is coming. There's a warning to the inhabitants of the cities. The time is near when large cities will be swept away. All should be warned of these coming judgments, but who is given to the accomplishment of this work, giving to it the wholehearted service that God requires. This is why for years running we have come to you and to friends all over this country and beyond and said, look, we're going to have a good time studying the Bible prophecies. But we must never forget that we have a work to be done. Never forget that there is a work to be done. Who is giving to the accomplishment of this work wholehearted service that God requires? We've got a young fellow out in California, John. Got a good name. He's a single young man. He's a bright young man. He lives a John the Baptist, almost John the Baptist kind of existence. And he gives out books all over, all over. Where is he now, George? I don't know. At the present time, there's not a 1,000th part being done in working the cities that should be done. And they would be done if men and women will do their whole duty. I'll tell you, I've got a plan. I would like to send you into every neighborhood in Chicago. How would you like that? Now, in Chicago, they have some of the strictest gun laws, and so you can't pack heat. No. You're the good guy. Good guys don't carry guns. Can't carry guns. So I want to give you an assignment and send you into every neighborhood in Chicago. Isn't that a cheering proposition? But if you and I could get our heads and pocketbooks together We could send one of these to every address. And let the postman pay the price. I have pages and pages and pages in the red books. It says, try. And if that doesn't work, try something else. And if that doesn't work, try something else. We have years behind us now. We have 37, 38 years of not just trying, but doing. We know what works. I like this statement, no time to lose. The end is near. Passage from place to place. You know she wrote this 100 years ago, don't you? Passage from place to place to spread the truth will soon be hedged with dangers on the right hand and the left. Everything will be placed to obstruct the way of the Lord's messengers, so they will not be able to do that which it is possible for them to do now. Every time I read this, Lord, 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 wondered why in the world did you send us into all of these cities and all of these airports when we could go with our clothes on? We could go in the airport, pass by everybody, take our carts loaded with boxes of books, and nobody said a thing except thank you.
In our box cutters.
We wondered, what in the world? Why are we doing all of this now? The world's not going to end for another 50 years. Because then you could do what you cannot do. They will not be able to do that which it is possible for them to do now. We have warnings now which we may give, work now which we may do, but soon more difficult than we can imagine. Again and again I'm instructed to present to our churches the work that should be done in our large cities. See, when I joined the Adventist Church back in the 50s, when I joined the Adventist Church, we had a lot of people, especially in the South where we're more conservative, used to be anyhow. We had a lot of people who put stock in the red books. And if God's servant said, this is what you should do, there were people who put shoe leather on it. There are entire conferences where you cannot stand in the desk on Sabbath morning and read from the red books. Not permitted. The work which the church has failed to do in a time of peace and prosperity, she'll have to do in a terrible crisis under the most discouraging, forbidding circumstances. Boy, all of this sounds so good. So, the results of the circulation of the great controversy. Wow, you have my attention. The results of the circulation of the great controversy are not to be judged by what now appears. By reading it, some souls will be aroused. By a much larger number who read it will not take their position until they see the very events taking place foretold in it. Where's our young man? Is it Josh or Jacques? What is it? First timer. Tell me your name again. Victor. All right. Didn't you tell me this morning when you came in, this is your first time to attend?
Yes, sir.
Yes. But something happened 8 or 10 years ago. What happened?
I received that book.
You listening?
You weren't the Adventist growing up?
Praise the Lord. When I got that book, I was living in Chicago. I don't live in Chicago anymore.
He took the counsel.
He took the counsel.
Welcome, brother.
Yes. We were in New Zealand on the South Island. And I can't even remember the capital of the South Island. Christian, anyhow. What?
Christchurch.
Christchurch, thank you. I'm 75, forgive me. We were in Christchurch. We were doing a little bit of sightseeing with friends. And I turned the corner. This is on the main street in front of the largest church in the city, capital city of the South Island. Beautiful place when they're not shaking and quaking. And here's a fellow with a backpack on. You could tell he's one of those travel all over the world guys. Young fellow. And he was down on the sidewalk and propped with his back to the church, and he was reading one of our books. Not this one. We hadn't printed this one yet. He was reading one of our books, Almost Armageddon, which is an abbreviated version of the Great Controversy. That's what this is as well. The results of the circulation of the Great Controversy, not to be judged by what now appears. The little lady that wrote all of this says, many will take the books and they will go unread. They will be placed on shelves and go unread. But from the light given me, the time is coming when these books will be sought after, and they will be taken down and read, and many will trace their first impressions to the reading of these books. See, all of this floods in on my mind and my heart like it's very difficult to describe, because when the Lord spoke to me in 1978 and said, "This is what I want you to do," I said no, and I meant it. I did not want to do that for many reasons. Besides, I didn't know anything about printing books. I just know it costs a lot of money. And it does. The time is coming when laws will be framed that will close doors now open. Well, I could go on a long time right there. What I want to do is get back to the board and talk about the daily for those who may be interested, for those for whom the daily makes no sense at all. We want to try and make some sense out of it. Do I need to give you a break? Some say yes. Okay. 4.5 minutes.